Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural day of the Paris Infra Week. My name is Sasha Vakulina. I'm Euronews business editor, and I'm going to be master of ceremony for this day, the day that opens the 4th edition of Paris Infra Week. This is the week full of events dedicated to the infrastructure industry. And we have the whole agenda planned for you, but to open the inaugural day, which is co-organized by Paris EUROPLACE and the French Ministry of the Economy, Finance and the Recovery, I'm inviting here on stage with the opening address, Bertrand DUMONT, Deputy Director General of the Treasury, French Ministry of the Economy, Finance and the Recovery. Please, the floor is yours.
Well, first, good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor for me to welcome you today on behalf of Bruno Le Maire. I know Bruno Le Maire will address you later this week to open this 4th edition of the Paris Infra Week. It has now become a tradition for the Ministry of Economy, Finance and Recovery to host this inaugural day, and I'm especially glad that we are able to do it this year. Obviously, this edition is special. Organizing an event of this scale is always a very demanding task, but it has proven even more difficult this year for obvious reasons. For the first time, Paris Infra Week is held in a hybrid format, with some participants here in Bercy with you, in this room, in other rooms, and others all over the world. Let me thank, first of all, the teams of the ministry and of our co-organizer, Paris EUROPLACE, who worked very hard in the last days to make this event possible, despite the challenging and, to say the least, changing conditions. This edition is also special because the sanitary crisis is giving a new urgency to the infrastructure financing agenda. The crisis has demonstrated the critical importance of good healthcare infrastructures and of resilient supply chains. Infrastructures will also have a major role to play in the economic recovery. As you are well aware, France has announced last month an unprecedented €100 billion recovery plan to support, but also to transform our economy in the next few years. It includes €6 billion for healthcare infrastructure, €6 billion for transport, and €7 billion to retrofit millions of private and public buildings. It clearly illustrates that investing in infrastructures is essential to accelerate recovery, but also transformation of our economy over the next 18 months. And it is also critical to tackle longer-term challenges, ecological transition, more resilient and reliable public services, digital access for all. Clearly, what is true for France is also true for Europe. The European Green Deal, that has been supported by France, aims to mobilize €1 trillion of public and private money to fund new investment over the next decade. On the path to building a carbon-neutral economy, upgrading our infrastructures will be key, especially in the transport and energy sectors. It will require a regulatory framework that supports the financing of long-term sustainable investment, and France will continue to work with its European partner to that end. It will also require strong institutions able to build partnership between public and private actors to fund quality projects all over Europe. This is why France is supporting the transformation of the European Investment Bank into a truly European climate bank. Paris Infra Week has also always looked beyond the border of Europe to address the specific needs of challenges of financing infrastructure projects in emerging and least developed countries. 2 sessions will be devoted to these issues this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, to put it in a nutshell, expectations are high. Infrastructures are seen as key to rebuilding our economy and transforming them, increasing our resilience to unforeseen shocks, reducing our carbon footprint, and putting poorer countries on the path to prosperity. These tasks can seem daunting. However, I think we can be comforted by the wealth of experience, knowledge, and creativity of our participants. I'm sure you will put them together to good use today, this week, and in the crucial months and year ahead, and help build a better world, one project at a time. I will now leave the floor to the chairman of Paris EUROPLACE, Augustin de ROMANET, with whom we are organizing this event. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody, Mr. President, ladies, gentlemen, all our distinguished guests. It's a pleasure to welcome you for this meeting. Thank you to Mr. Bertrand Dumont, Deputy Director General of the Treasury, and to the French Ministry of Finance welcoming us in this international meeting. These conditions are hard to organize such a meeting, but we consider in EUROPLACE that it is very important as far as climate change, biodiversity challenges, request gathering bankers, investors, private equity, lawyers, accountants, industrials, all together to create a climate of confidence such to be in position to invest all around the world. We are very proud in Paris to be one of the best ecosystems in the world to help financing projects in the better conditions of safety and security. So we consider that it's very important to maintain, even if it is hybrid, this kind of event. As you know, Paris EUROPLACE is a professional body which supports the development of Paris as an international financial center. And within our priorities, the development of infrastructure ecosystem is very, very important. Let me remind that just before the COVID-19 crisis, the G20 estimates were an annual 1.5 trillion global infrastructure financing gap, with 60% of this amount to be directed to emerging countries. No doubt that the COVID-19 will amplify this financing gap. In the same time, crisis is changing the global economic priorities, the global infrastructure agenda, accelerating the necessary integration of sustainability criteria as well as the quality infrastructures as a priorities to meet tomorrow's infra needs and putting them at the heart of the recovery plans all over the world. In this context, I would like to underline how Europe and France are today mobilized to transform this current crisis on new opportunities. First, at the European level, the very good news is, perhaps thanks to the fact that UK was not within the EU, I don't know, but for the first time, Europe is even more united. For the first time, Europe will borrow to invest and reform. 750 billion will be raised on the markets for the recovery fund to reach a global budget for the EU of 1.850 billion euros, of which 25% is linked to our climate ambitions. Among them identified priorities, construction and renovation, 185 billion euros, transport, 120 billion euros, renewable energy, 30 billion euros, etc. And if we look at France, 30 billion euros will be dedicated to green transition, representing 30% of the French recovery plan. This plan will include investments for energy efficiency, private and social housing and public buildings, as well as for sustainable mobility, decarbonization of the industry, and for green technologies, hydrogen, biofuel, recycling. As I said, we consider that the French infra ecosystem is amongst the most efficient systems in the world. First, a large base of French industrial companies, as well as European or global leaders as infra providers in telecom, transportation, water, environment. Some of them are participating today at this inaugural day of the 2020 Paris Infra Week with their CEO and chairman. And I would like to especially thank Total with Patrick Pouyanné and Solvay with Ilham Kadri, which will participate today. Unfortunately, the main participants of water supply are not there because they have other things to do, I guess. So we forgive them. If we look at the Global Infra League table, 4 French banks are among the top 10 with a commitment of more than 30 billion euros. And more than 17 billion euros of infra funds are under management in France. Altogether, infra are more than ever both a key driver of economic and social sustainable development throughout the planet and an area of activity of excellence of the Paris financial centers. Last year, our working group, the working group of EUROPLACE, which was chaired by the CEO of HSBC France, Jean Bonnardaud, had issued a report on this topic. Its main findings and propositions are still perfectly valid. I will just take a few examples. The first one, the need to help clarifying and streamlining the national pipelines of projects in many countries is still there. The need to help with institutional enabling capacity building and project planning and project preparation in many countries is still crucial. We need to accelerate and scale up, on the back of the first concrete examples, the development of the so-called blended finance. All emerging markets remain huge challenges, both in terms of size and complexity, and among them, Sub-Saharan Africa is a continent of particular focus and attention. Last but not least, we need to ascertain that the regulators apply a reasonable treatment to the financings of these projects, be they granted by banks or institutional investors, once they are properly selected, prepared, managed, and de-risked. The recent meetings of the G20 has confirmed most of these findings and propositions. Even if 1 year has passed ever since has been extremely rich in events, some of them frankly scary and some others fortunately bringing us some hope. I will not dwell on the negative events as we know them all. Sanitary situation, economic consequences, huge pressure it puts on public finance, increased social expectation. But we can look with some optimism at the positive aspects of the first 3 quarters of this year, 2020. On an egotic point of view, I would say that during 2 years, I was firmly against the idea of Brexit. I always considered that Brexit was a tragedy for Europe. But today, it is there. So we have to cope with that. And we have to transform this drama in something, in an opportunity for Europe. And I guess that the Union of Capital Markets will help us to progress, even in the infra ecosystem development. And the development of capital markets unions will be probably easier without United Kingdom. So let us transform this tragedy in a kind of opportunity. Some positive aspects: the impressive emergence of massive state-sponsored support plans, much faster and stronger than during the 2008 crisis. I remind you that in the 2008 crisis, finance was the problem. Today, finance will be the solution. The continuous scientific and technological progress, the remarkable resilience of financial institutions and of many private companies of all sizes, and the growing importance of sustainable development goals as a key business driver. And I would say the birth of a new European Union, more ambitious and realistic, more sovereign, more active, more inclusive. And last but not least, the very positive action of the French government and administration with their support to the economy and society, and now with the recent recovery plan. These positive factors and policies will outweigh the negative forces if we act swiftly and wisely, and infrastructures have a key role to play in this respect, as they are somehow the backbone of the economies and territories, provided we are able to draw all the lessons of the current situation and adapt our actions accordingly. To conclude, this is why I'm particularly happy to know that the program co-built by EUROPLACE, its members and sponsors, and the Treasury will take us today through the evolution of the global infrastructure market, the possible contribution of new technologies, the role and impact of the European New Green Deal and the progress of financial structuring. I'm also delighted to know that the last presentation of the day will be done by the Italian presidency of the G20, which will have the task to keep on promoting and fostering efficient and sustainable quality infra in the European Union and beyond. So thanks again for all your attention. And now I'm very happy to leave the floor to Patrick Pouyanné, Chairman of and CEO of Total. Thank you, Patrick, for being there.